Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Pony Podcast. You are listening to me from day 1246 of isolation, or it feels like that anyway. I hope you guys are faring better than Alex and I are. We obviously can't see each other because we're practicing social distancing and can't go out and interview anyone, so we're trying out Skype interviews, as you might have seen the other day. But hopefully this will all blow over quite quickly. Here's an interview from before we had to lock ourselves away for the foreseeable future. This is us interviewing Laura Cutter from the Equestrian Sponsorship Hub. Laura's worked in marketing for a number of years and really developed a passion for matching up riders with the right company to sponsor them, as well as championship title sponsors with British Eventing, British Dressage, British Riding Club and British Show Jumping competitions. She's worked with some of the partnerships that you will definitely have heard of, like the Magic Millions Festival of British Eventing, or the Blue Chip Finals in show jumping, or the Petplan Winter League in dressage. Loads of stuff that you'll know her from. So have a listen, tell us what you think, and enjoy.
First of all, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ready to hear some interesting insights about sponsorship.
We've already finished our tea, so we're all ready.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you again.
That's right.
Out.
You're allowed to say thank you twice.
Okay. So how long?
Thank me as many times as you like.
Well, this is really exciting.
It's really
It's not.
exciting.
It's like, this is going to sound really awful, but a lot of the people that we've had on the podcast have been someone that we've known, or we've known through someone else. But this is like a very
An actual contact that we made at a place.
Yeah. So how long have you been involved in sponsorship?
So I've been in the equestrian industry for almost 12 years now, and been involved in sponsorship all of that time.
Wow.
So I started at working with Equilibrium products.
Cool.
Are you aware of Equilibrium?
Yeah.
So, and I actually went in as sponsorship manager.
Yeah.
So at the time, we were sponsoring, we had some title championship sponsors with British Dressage, British Eventing, British Show Jumping, and it took up a lot of time, and they needed someone to focus on that.
Yeah.
We also had a number, it wasn't a huge number, we had a sort of number of quite high profile riders that were represented across the discipline, so basically they needed someone to focus on that. So always been involved in sponsorship, but I continued that, but I moved to marketing manager. So the marketing manager, after I'd been there, I think it was like 6-9 months, she left, and so I just stepped into her shoes and then just stayed there for 10 years. And then about a year and a half ago, I set up on my own, knowing that I wanted to niche in equestrian sponsorship, because I just feel so passionate about it. And I think there's an area that it's such a valuable tool for a rider or a brand, and there was a bit of a grey area in between, and I thought I could fill that, and so that's what I've been doing.
How did you get involved in it to start off with? Like, what was your background in marketing, or?
Background's always been in sales, actually. It's so not in marketing at all. I think it came naturally to me, but also Equilibrium products their head office was in the same village as me. So that helped as well. So especially on snow days when nobody could get in, I could walk to the office.
Ideal.
So I think that was it. But actually, no, I haven't got a background in marketing. It just evolved. But my background was always in sales. It just happened. Yes.
Well, I guess
and a love of horses.
I guess it's really appropriate because, I mean, at a basic level, appealing to sponsors is how you sell yourself and how a product, sells itself to.
Yes, it is. Let's say as a rider, if you're trying to sell yourself to a sponsor, you got to think about yourself as the product.
Yeah.
You're the product.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah,
there is a bit of sales involved.
That's something that I've found really hard, because I've been doing the Young Professionals program, and the first session we had was building your personal brand, and I'm not a particularly outgoing person, and I don't put a lot of my stuff on social media, and they were like, you've got to think, what's different about you and what can you offer, and I was like, oh no.
I think sometimes it actually, and when I'm working with riders, you often don't know yourself, but it takes a conversation or a session to actually really delve into it, and somebody else to say, well, hang on, highlight that. This is, you know,
it's like I found it really like writing your personal statement when you were doing UCAS forms, because you had to, it was like, it's almost easier to write it for someone else, because someone else you can be really objective and you can say, right, this part of you is exactly the same as everyone else, so we're going to completely ignore that, but you've done this bit differently than everyone else, so we're going to really, really focus on that a lot, and you've got like these bits of experience that are a bit weird that no one else will have, and you've got this that you found really hard to work on, but actually no one else has actually found a solution to that problem, so we're gonna really talk about that, and it's so much easier doing it for someone else than having to do it for yourself.
If you were asked, what 3 words would your friends use to describe you, something like that, and they're not things that you would say yourself, but actually someone, I am, I guess I am like that.
That was in my interview for the Young Professionals programme.
What did you say?
I can't remember. I said something about like being quite flexible, so like always trying to find a solution to a problem, never saying no. I think I said I was quite determined, like if something has to be done, I'll get up early and get it done. And then I said I was quite positive. I think those are my 3 things.
Everyone's going to be stealing those now.
Yeah, they're really good.
For the next 3 years, all the young professionals are going to hear it. Oh, I'm really flexible.
Determined.
It took ages. I was sat there like, I don't know, what can I use to describe you? And they were looking at me like, come on, give us something.
Any words. Adjectives, come on.
So, in your time in sponsorship, have you seen a shift in the types of sponsorship or the aim of sponsorship of riders and brands?
I've definitely seen a shift in the types of sponsorship of riders. Again, when I started, sponsorship was high profile, competitive riders because they had a lot to offer a brand. Because they're out and about competing, they're well known, they've got global appeal. Since the sort of arrival and the growth of social media, actually there's a whole new market now and a whole new level of riders. You still got your professional riders. You're lucky if you find a professional rider who is also good at social media, and there's a few of those, and I can think of one in particular. But there's not that many of those, but then you've got your amateur or your grassroots rider who is very good on social media, and that actually to a brand is really, really attractive. Helpful, yeah. But there's definitely a shift there. But then you've also got the sort of the rise of the influencer, who perhaps isn't a grassroots rider or isn't a competitive rider at all, but they might just be an equestrian or have an equestrian interest, and may just be a leisure rider or might be a 6-year-old child, you know. But there has been that, I think, the most obvious shift in rider sponsorship that I've seen.
Yeah. Would you say there's like a profile of rider that a brand would look for, or like categories of rider that a brand would look for?
I think it depends on the product, definitely, and then it depends on what the target market is for that brand, and is it a horse treat who's got possibly a wider range, but maybe a young market, or is it the professional? Is it sort of a premium, expensive product, or some kit, something like that? So I think no, I don't. I think that's there's a wide range. I can't say that I guess each brand would have their ideal rider, but I think in equestrian sport there's so many different disciplines. And if they are relevant to the product, I think they do need to be represented across the disciplines.
What would you say are like some kind of questions to ask yourself if you're looking for sponsorship, but you're trying to work out what brands to approach?
I think it always helps if you've got to know the product, and you've got to use the product or understand the product, because it's got to be genuine and authentic. If it's not, you can see through it. Everyone can spot a fake, and that's it. And I often hear saying, well, they're going to say that because they've been sponsored by that brand. But I think got to know and use the product and like the product and understand the product.
Well, we've just had literally this weekend one of those situations, because we work with Noble Equestrian.
Yes.
And they've given us products to try, and we always do a review and we sort of say what we mean. But they gave us a rug to try out that they sort of gave it to us to do a video, and my horse has been wearing it. And I shouted about it quite a lot on social media today, because my horse tried to jump out the field on Saturday, and don't know why, never done it before, it caught its leg straps on this rug on the fence as it was going over. But because it's got special features on the fastenings to give if it's under pressure, all the fastenings popped off, the leg straps broke, the rug came off the horse, and the horse has got away with a tiny cut on the inside of its hind leg, and got checked over by the physio, and it's sound by some miracle. And
she'll choose her place to jump in more carefully.
Well, she did it on like an acute angle, like it was the Vicarage V. I had no idea why, but it's like I've been saying on social media all day, I don't know what would have happened if she'd been in any other rug.
Yeah.
And the rug hadn't come off the horse.
Yeah.
And
so that's not a product that you knew, but you've tried it.
No.
But also you've got an audience, you've built an audience that believe in you and trust you and know that you're genuine.
Yeah.
So you'll be honest about the product, and if it doesn't work, perhaps you don't shout about it. You keep that one quiet. But, but when you do say positive things, it's because
we have been quite honest in our reviews for them. We did. There was one product that their riding tights or something that we got to talk about, and I was like, I don't like them. I'm not a fan. They just don't fit me. They just don't suit me.
But they don't suit everyone. But they might suit somebody else. Yeah.
And we did email them to pre-warn that they just didn't really work for me, and I'm really sorry that the review's not glowing, but.
Yeah, but then they have said that it's really useful to have feedback, because then they can use it to develop future products.
Yeah, it's real honest
because
feedback,
just always being glowing and saying things are amazing, it doesn't really sound very genuine.
No.
And it's not helpful for the brand.
And I feel like people listening, they can see through it if you're just like, oh, well, it's so wonderful all the time. And it's like, well, you do get given it, so they're going to think that. My favourite thing about it is that I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's what people think, but that's why. So I think, you need to know the product really.
Yeah.
Or be open that it's a new product, but you can do that when you have a high enough profile that you can
be a bit
choosy, be a bit choosy and try different products and choose the products. Actually, I don't want to try that. I don't believe in the philosophy, or it might conflict with something else.
Yeah. So if you go.
You were saying about how much social media has played a big part in sponsorship. Do you think that's had more of an impact on how riders are chosen for sponsorship based on their social media numbers?
I actually heard that the week before last. I was talking to a brand about a particular rider that actually they are sponsoring, and then we were talking about a potential other rider. And they said nowadays brands are looking for riders with a good social media following. And I think that's really hard, because that's not what, a professional rider needs to be spending time out and about, teaching, training, competing. And that's where their focus should be. Yeah. And they shouldn't have to be fantastic on social media, but then they can outsource it and get somebody else to do it. Yeah. And again, and then they can dip in and out themselves to make sure it's personal.
The company that I work for, we're looking to supply, not sponsor, we're looking to supply some riders. Nobody emailed me for sponsorship when it's one specific rider that we're approaching, and we're definitely not looking to move into horses anytime soon. But
get that out there.
Please don't email me. But we did, I obviously know the industry quite well. My boss knows it reasonably well, but not as well as I do. So when I went to him and was like, I want to sponsor this rider, it's someone who's a little bit left field, exposure wise. And he was like, oh, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, no. I want to sponsor them for this reason, this reason, this reason, and their social media following is higher than any of the other options that I've come up with. And even though they were a bit left field and it was it's a bit of a gamble choice, that's the reason he went for it, because the social media following is higher. The person is very high profile, so good or bad, the name's going to get out there, their sponsors are going to get out there, people are aware of what they're doing, and it just makes such a huge difference.
But I think, if you're not going to do it personally yourself, if you're a rider and you're thinking that that's just not me, and I haven't got the time to do it, and I am, don't even know how Instagram works or something, the old school riders, outsource it, get somebody else to do
and
it
the standard
for you.
of like content and images and stuff that good kind of influencers are producing is so high. If it's not just like, snap a photo of this and that'll be fine. Like, you have to put effort into it. It's time consuming.
I think there's layered. There's sponsored riders, which is your professional rider, and a brand may sponsor them in product, but have a sort of financial contribution as well. Financial allocation a year. Your brand ambassadors, which you probably just give product to, but who are going to work really hard for you. And then you've got your sort of social media influencers who may be product, or maybe they've got such a high following, and you're actually paying them to post or do a story or a YouTube video or something like that for them. And I think a brand now needs all three of those layers. So you're not going to put your brand ambassador on the sort of back of your trade stand at badminton, or are you? You need your high profile sponsored rider that people has got global recognition, but you also need your brand ambassador, your middle layer, where they're out all the time working hard on social media for you. I think you need all of them.
So ideally, if you're sponsored, you want to have a long-term relationship with the brand. What are your tips for building that relationship?
So I don't know if you've seen, but just recently I put a list of 55 ways to support your sponsors on my website. And actually, I started it off, I thought it would be 25 ways to support your sponsors, and literally I better stop at 55 because I think people are just going to get bored now, but you could you could carry on. Okay, in answer to your question, how do you keep a relationship with your sponsor? Do all 55 of those things. But I actually honestly think that the value you give has got to represent the value you receive, and I feel really strongly that you need to think about what you're getting in return. Sometimes it's brand association, and it's really good for me to be associated with Noble Outfitters or whoever it is, and that's enough for me. But others could be a feed sponsor or a bedding sponsor and supplier, where you get it's worth more value than a bracelet or something like that. So I think you've got to think about that. So going back to my 55 ways of how to support your sponsors, you don't need to do all of that for all of them, but I put that list together from the other side, from a brand point of view, that yes,
brands need their return on investment.
But I think there is often this grey area of who leads that? And I often hear a rider say, I've got all this, brand gave me all this product, it's great, but they've never asked me to do anything. And then a brand says, I gave all this product to that rider and they haven't done anything for me. So that's, you need to keep that relationship going and outsource and have a relationship manager, which is what I do, to keep it going. But also find the best way to communicate as well. So it maybe they're sending you emails, you never look at emails, or you're sending them text, they're not going to answer by text. Find out the best way, whether it's WhatsApp or a telephone call, and it could be a telephone call, or it could be, I'd say, are you signed up to that brand's newsletter so you understand what's going on? But then the other way around, make sure that you're telling the brand what you're doing, what you're doing. Exactly. And they don't know. I think you do have to be clear from the outset who's going to lead it, what you want to get out of it, and just keep that relationship going. But it's hard. It's really hard.
It's like a job.
It's a job, exactly. And again, if you're putting yourself out there, you're saying, I'm going to be sponsored. It isn't just, that's fine, I'll tag 20 sponsors in every post I do, that's not enough. That's not great value to a brand. It might look great for you.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're sponsored by all those people. They must be good,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you a more legit rider. If you're like, oh yeah, I've got all these sponsors, and actually need to provide something back to them. Like that's what I've been finding most difficult. People being like, oh well, I'm sponsored, so that's what I have to do. Or athletes who are like, oh, if you want something from me, you just have to chase me.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, but I have other things I have to do.
But that's where it does, and that's where it falls apart.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll look at it in a year's time and think, I want to ask for a bit more kit, but I haven't really done very much. Or they're saying that you haven't done anything. Actually, we're not going to continue our sponsorship. We'll be sponsoring somebody else who's doing that. You do have to work for it. You don't get anything for free in this life.
So as well as building relationships between riders and brands, you also work with events.
Yes.
And brands.
Yes.
And you often see at big events they have a title sponsor. So what do those companies get out of sponsoring events? And is it as beneficial for them?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially in a niche industry like ours. Really, if you want to get your name in front of an audience, an equestrian audience, sponsorship is the perfect way to do that. It's immediate as well, and it's controllable. But I think different brands sponsor different events and put their name to for different reasons, and it could be, again, for a brand, if the brands I work with, we set out really clear objectives at the start. So is it just brand recognition, and that could be all it is, and it could just be, the next time they see, or if they see a full page ad in the Horse and Hound, I saw them, they're the people who sponsored that event. So it could just be brand recognition, or it could just be trying to increase their customer database. So they're going to, let's say, have a trade stand and encourage as many people as possible to come to the trade stand and maybe collect emails from them and build their mailing list or that sort of thing. So I think there's lots of different ways. Or it could just be, we want more sales. We're going to sponsor, put our name to it, and actually we want more sales. And we're going to give everyone who walks through the door a voucher. All the riders will have a discount or something like that. And increase sales.
Do you think brands do you think there's a kind of cumulative effect the longer they support a single event? I mean, badminton have just lost, obviously, Mitsubishi stepped down sponsoring badminton. It was Mitsubishi, wasn't it?
It was Mitsubishi, yeah.
Stepped down sponsoring badminton, so they've had to change their logo and everything. But do you think that will have impacted the brand?
I think they may. I don't know the reason why they're not sponsoring. Let's leave that there.
Alone. Yeah.
But for if you think of any of the most successful sponsorships in the equestrian industry, and I've actually written an article on it as well, but spoken to, say, the likes of Saracens or Blue Chip or SEIB, they would all say that longevity is key here. So you would. There's a reason why sponsorships are sold on 3-year deals, because the first year is just sort of bedding in, second year just increasing that. By the third year, you've got a foothold on that, and people really start to associate and recognise you. So I think if you're going to, as a brand, commit to sponsorship, you've got to commit for the long term. British dressage, the Blue Chip Championships, for example, how long have they been going for? And people just, the name is synonymous with the competition, and
you no longer call it the championship or whatever it is. It's now just
it's the Blue Chip. I've qualified for the Blue Chips.
Or even to the point that Pony Club have their Winter League, and Denji always sponsored it, and I think this year they've stepped down. But everyone's still going, I've qualified for Denji areas. I've qualified for Denji champs. And it just sticks around.
Absolutely.
And Petland champs for dressage. I keep thinking of more of them now.
It's I'd say, commit for the long term, but they get a lot out of it. And again, it's a niche industry, so it's quite easy to get in front of these people.
We are such a small market when you think about everyone needs horse food, and everyone knows about all of the different horse foods. It's so directed, everything like that. You go.
So you see a lot of big brands that are out there that they put on their stands, they've got sponsored riders, but do smaller brands offer sponsorship?
Yeah, I think I think for smaller brands, actually having a sponsored rider, or I'm going to say brand ambassador here, because they'll be paid in product rather than financially money. Yeah, I think it's a really good cost-effective way for them to get into a new market and get brand awareness. Yeah, definitely, and often it starts. I'm trying to think of an example now, and I can't. But you can actually start with an up and coming young rider, or maybe on the pony teams or something like that, and that works with a lesser known brand, and then that just relationship just builds.
They build each other up, don't they?
Yeah.
As one's success grows.
Yes, I think it was recently. It was Ros Cantor.
Yes,
has sort of exploded onto the eventing scene quite quickly, and she's sponsored by Emerald Horse Feeds.
Yes,
and she was put a post up recently saying that they've supported her since the beginning,
since day one,
and they've always sort of been there, helped her horses, and now they're really sort of have fueled her success, literally.
Yeah.
And doesn't that give you more trust in the brand then?
Yeah.
Doesn't
and
it?
her,
And her,
that she's not
she's loyal.
Someone else.
She's loyal.
Yes. Yeah, massively. So now we've reached the 3 questions that we ask everyone.
3? I thought there were 2. Come on.
2. Do we not want to ask the 3rd one?
Okay, so to clue you in, because I sent these before we ran our competition, we used to have a question about talent, and we decided that everyone was kind of giving the same answer and it was a little bit boring. So we put a vote to our Instagram audience to give us suggestions for a new question, and they gave us. We picked the top 4 and had a vote to whittle it down.
Okay.
And that's where the 3rd question.
I think this should be the first time we ask our new question. Is it the first? It's not the first time. It's the first time. The new question is: what's a bit of advice you would give yourself 5 years ago? If you could talk to yourself in the past. I said that in a really weird way. I phrased that really oddly. Yeah.
For me personally, just follow your dreams and have the confidence for me to go it alone, which is what I'm doing now, and niching in that area that I was absolutely passionate about. Just have the confidence to do that earlier. That would be the advice.
Was it a hard kind of leap, or did you kind of already have the right contacts and the right people had the right kind of faith in you that you could do it?
I think that's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head there. I think I've had the contacts, and in the sort of equestrian world, they don't change. The contacts I've got in all the equestrian, sort of main equestrian bodies are still there, and I've still got amazing relationships with them. And so, that actually gave me the confidence to do that. So it was, okay, if I'm in this area now and you're carry on talking to me, I'm the same person, but just with a different brand behind me.
Don't annoy anyone because they don't leave.
No, they don't leave. It's quite hard for young people trying to think that's the job I want. You've got to wait quite a long time.
You're controlling.
I know. I turned up to the controller training. Apart from it wasn't really a training; it was a continued professional development. So I turned up being like, I don't have any professional development to continue, but we're going to start here. And all the events have their controller that they always go to, and I was just there like, there is no way I'm ever good. I'm going to be.
You can be an assistant controller.
Yeah, I can, but they've all got their teams that they all they all have their teams they always go to. So I just went around making friends with everyone, being like, if I make enough friends, I'm going to wheedle my way into enough teams that I'm going to be everywhere.
I have to edit this out if this doesn't come across very well. Someone put a post on social media today saying that given the high risk category, a lot of the volunteers at the events, they might have to self-isolate, so they can't come to the events.
But I'm really asthmatic. I am part of the high risk category. I'm no help to anyone. I'll be there with my inhaler just puffing away.
I'm covering my mouth so I don't laugh. I'm not heard laughing. I might have to edit that bit out.
I think it comes across well. Okay. Maybe I will edit it up. Maybe the volunteers, I don't think we can go after. Controllers, they're fine.
Next question. What's one thing you can't live without?
Tea.
Oh,
I know
that's such a good one.
It's really just. I thought everyone might say that.
No,
I honestly couldn't live without tea. It what gets me up in the morning. I have to have about 3 cups of tea before I'm really going, and then I have tea throughout the day. Nice cup of Earl Grey tea.
Yes. I don't really notice when I'm at work because someone else like someone will always be like, oh, I'm doing a tea run, does anyone want a tea? So I'm not making it, so I don't really realise how much I go through. And working from home, oh, there's a lot. that kettle's really earning its keep.
I couldn't live without my tea. Sorry, no.
Love it. What is one thing you wish you'd learned sooner?
To ride. To horse ride.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't learn to ride till I was 20.
Really?
Yeah.
How was it picking it up that late?
Yeah, fine. And I mean, fine, I think. Yeah, it's sort of, but and I got the bug and then never stopped. I just, didn't grow up in a horsey family, so I wasn't fortunate enough to have ponies and do pony clubs. My kids have done that. I've given them everything that I didn't have. But I didn't start to ride until I was 20.
Do you watch them? Because obviously there's quite a steep learning curve when you start falling off when you learn to ride. Do you watch them falling off and bouncing and getting back on and being like,
well, when they started
so
to ride, they had a pony from the age of like 6, so the little Welsh section A, and when they fall off, it's not so far to fall, is it?
They just bounce.
And they just bounce, exactly, and you just pop them back on and hope for the best.
Did you watch them like, you lucky sod?
Yeah, so much so. But then, so I learned to ride at 20, but I actually went travelling. I went travelling around the world and stayed in Australia for a year, and then moved from Australia to Hong Kong and stayed in Hong Kong for 10 years.
Wow.
And the children were both born in Hong Kong. And I rode in Hong Kong. So I rode at... the riding really stables. Yeah, I did. Well, we were on Hong Kong Island, so there's Pok Phalam riding stables, and then there's Bees River on the in the New Territories, and so it was down the road from me, so I sort of rode. You ride about at really early in the morning before it gets too hot. Yeah. But they're all ex-racehorses, and which is just lovely, and they were really well kept. So I carried on riding there, and I just said to myself, as soon as I come back to the UK, the first thing I'm going to do is buy a horse. So that is first thing I did was buy a horse, but the kids were little at the time, and it was like I was dragging them up to the stables, and I thought
they needed something to do.
I'll buy them a pony and I'll keep them quiet, and so I literally did that. So they shared a pony and cat, and then it all started from there.
Oh, lucky them.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
Oh, not at all. It's been really good.
People want to find out more about you and your business that you've just started. Where can they find you on social media?
So I'm the Equestrian Sponsorship Hub. So on Facebook and Instagram, it's Equestrian Sponsorship. And my website's got loads of information about what I do, and it's an area I'm passionate about, so I'm just giving loads of advice. I'm happy to help anybody if you're looking for sponsorship or you want a bit of advice on sort of setting up a sponsorship proposal or how do you approach a brand. If it's not on the website already, just drop me an email or DM or something, and I'll be happy to help.
You'll have both of us in it.
Yes. You're my next project. You're my next project.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed recording it. It was certainly nice to be out of the house. Hopefully you'll hear a lot more of us this week, because we'll have episodes coming to you, keep you entertained. We'll have our isolation sensation at the end of the week, and a lockdown log as well, a bit about what Alex and I are getting up to, how we're passing the time and trying to stop ourselves going crazy. If you guys want to, just message us and have a chat, feel free. You can email us at theponypod@gmail.com. You can DM us on Instagram at The Pony Podcast, and you can message us on Facebook at The Pony Podcast, and you can even go to our website, where you will find all of the episodes all in one handy place, as well as a blog which will be updated regularly as we're both very bored. So there'll be a little something for you to read, a little bit of extra content to keep you entertained, and stop you guys going as stir crazy as we are. I think that's it. Alright, have a good one and look after yourselves. Keep washing those hands and not seeing any of your friends. As someone who is at risk, and realistically, if I get it, it would not be that fun. I'm really grateful to everyone around me who is social distancing and being really, really careful. So stay safe. Bye.